Vayetze Yaakov mib'er Shava vayelech Harana. And Yaakov left Beersheba vayelech Harana, and he went to Harana. So the Torah is very concise. We don't have an extra letter, an extra kutzo shel yud. So the commentators, Rashi and others, are bothered why the language Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheba. Yaakov left from Beersheba vayelech Harana. It could have just said vayelech Yaakov Harana. Why do we care where Yaakov came from? We only care where he's going. So Rashi quotes, "O hayatzarach lichtov ela vayelech Yaakov Harana." The Torah should have just said, "And Yaakov went Harana." V'lama hiskir yitziyah. So why does it mention Vayetze Yaakov? Ela magid sheyitziyah sadak min hamakam osa rosham. It comes to teach us a very important lesson, a very important yisod, that when a righteous person leaves a place, he leaves his mark. Certainly he leaves his mark while the tzaddik's there, but the chiddush is even after that tzaddik leaves, the place is not the same anymore. Shebizman shat tzaddik ba'ir hu hoda hu ziva hu hadari. He gives glory to the town. V'chein v'yetze min hamakam, and they quote other psukim. So Rashi quotes that the reason why the Torah says Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheba instead of just saying Vayelech Yaakov Harana, I wanted to teach us a tremendous yisod, that when a tzaddik leaves a city, he makes a roshim, he makes a mark. So the Avnei Shoham, as well as other Mefarshim, ask, what is Rashi is waking up a little bit too late here? Wasn't Avraham a tzaddik? Wasn't Yitzchak a tzaddik? And of course we know in terms of the Torah, or Chazal, it's known as Noach was a tzaddik and Yosef was a tzaddik. And we explain, based on the Das Dekanim or Bali Tosfos, why are they called tzaddikim? Those are the two in Chazal. There's many tzaddikim throughout Jewish history. But why did Noach and Yosef warrant the title of tzaddik? So the Das Dekanim or Bali Tosfos explains because they both have in common is they both saved the world. Noach, when he came out of the ark and rebuilt the world, and Yosef during the days of feast and famine, so he was able to save the food during the good times so the whole world could survive when they didn't have any food. And how do we know that one who saves the world is labeled a tzaddik? We say it every day in davening 3 times a day. Ashrei Yoshe Veisecha, we say, Posech Eshadecha Umatzpia U'chol Chayratzon. God, you open up your hand and satisfy all living creatures. Tzaddik Hashem, God, you are a tzaddik. So we see that one who sustains the world has the label tzaddik. So here, Rashi talks the more generic term tzaddik, that Yaakov was a tzaddik, and therefore it says Vayetze Yaakov. Yitziyah tzaddik min hamakam osa rosham. So the question is, what happened to Avraham? What happened to Yitzchak? Why is Rashi tell us this chiddush, or tell us this profound lesson now regarding Yaakov? Why would it say by Avram and Yitzchak? So the Avnei Shoham explains, because it's a bigger chiddush when it comes to Avraham. When it's a bigger chiddush when it comes to Yaakov than Avram or Yitzchak. Because Avram, we know, Vayashkem Avram Baboker, Avram made the 5 o'clock news. He was wealthy, popular, mighty. He helped fight the wars, the 4 kings, 5 kings. He saved Lot. Avram was someone who was very well known, and he was known for the midah of chesed, the midah of acts of loving kindness. He opened up Gemilas Chasadim societies. He set up visiting the sick, entertaining guests, setting up hospitals. But basically it's clear when you have one person who basically runs the whole town, and takes care of everything, when that person leaves, you don't have to say he left an impact. It's quite obvious to everybody. Unless, he set it up well, hopefully they'll continue, but someone who actually physically takes care of all the needs of the people, when they're not there, they'll know about it. And Yitzchak also, he was still following the footsteps of his fathers, although he was a totally different meat of Gvura, and he was an Ola Tamima, he couldn't live Eretz Yisrael, but as well, people still sense the impact, the son of Avraham. But Yaakov, what does Yaakov represent? Yaakov represents Torah. He's Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. And I don't mean people who are sitting and learning and teaching and doing Kira Rechokim and being involved in the community. That's a given. If you have a good Rabbi, a good teacher, and they leave the community, of course the impact's felt directly and right away. But we see from here that even let's say people are just learning, you have a kollel, and the tremendous impact that the many people are sitting and learning in your community, and therefore perhaps the benefit isn't seen directly all the time. And therefore, that's the chiddush here, the Yaakov that represents Torah, Yitziyat Sadik min hamakam osa rosham, that when these people leave the city, when the yeshiva closes down, or when the kollel leaves, so even though physically speaking it might look like nothing happens, but on a spiritual level it makes a big erosham. And that's what Rashi's telling me here he's saying it by Avram and Yitzchak, it's obvious. But by Yaakov, someone might think, what's the big deal Yaakov left? Comes along the Torah, Vayetze Yaakov Be'ashava Vayelech Harana. And in fact, that's what it points out. And so that's one shot. The Beis Halevi and others explain it a little differently. What's the double language? Vayetze Yaakov Be'ashava Vayelech Harana. So we know there is an important mitzvah of kivud of the aim, honoring one's parents. It's the 5th of the 10 commandments. And we know even Esav Harasha, Chazal tell us, was very meticulous in the mitzvah of kivud of the aim. So much so that the rabbis tell us that one of the rabbis was bemoaning the fact, he said, I wish I could keep 1/100th of the kivud of the aim that Esav did for his father. I wish I could do a tipa min hayam. I wish I could just keep a drop of it. What does he mean? He says because when Esav used to see his father, he used to put on the special garments. He realized he was in the presence of his father, and therefore, like approaching the king, and therefore he used to put on special clothes. He didn't just show up in his sweatshirts, his t-shirts, his regular clothes. He used to put on special garments. I don't put on any special garments. So this rabbi was bemoaning the fact that he doesn't keep kivud of the aim like Esav. So comes along the Mefarshim, the commentators, and say, talk is cheap. Actions talk louder than words. What are you bemoaning it? So if you really feel like you want to do it, so go into your closet, take out your Yontiv or Shabbat, or you'll set aside a kivud of the aim suit, and before you see your parents, you'll get dressed up. What's this? You're bemoaning it, so don't stop talking about it and do it. So what's the pshat? So the Bali Musa, the Mefarshim, explain it as follows: that no, so he wasn't bemoaning the fact. Of course, he could have went into the closet and put the suit on, but then again, it wouldn't have meant anything. It would have been a hollow act. That putting on this clothing, I'm going in, it's going through the motion. It wouldn't mean anything to me. And and it's a separate machlokes, the Mesilas Yesharim versus others, and what is the way to get those feelings in terms of The Mesil Shasharim writes that one has to work on their outside first, and then their inside will come. And the Chafetz Chaim says that it's true, but in our generation, he's saying this years ago, there are too many fakers today who have the outside garb but don't have the feeling inside. Today we have to work on our inside. And I heard from, I think it was Rabbi Tauber from Or Sameach, give an interesting mashal. This is like 20, 30 years ago, but it's still true, that he says, well, it's not true that the microwaves are new anymore, but they're newer than ovens. So he says, what's the difference if you cook a hamburger in an oven or a microwave? So how does an oven work? First the outside gets cooked and then you move on to the inside. When it comes to the microwave, it gets right down to the root. You get the middle of the burger cooked and then it spreads to the outside. He says, so too, that's what the Chafetz Chaim is saying. There was a time, every generation has to know. And obviously you need both. You need a combination of the two. But that's what this rabbi was saying. Of course I could put on the suit, but it wouldn't be meaningful. And I'd just be an empty act. But I mean, Moni, I wish I had the feeling of Esav, that I was in someone's presence. It was very special every time I go and see my parents. And that's why the Gemara is similar in a different context. This woman was a very, very modest, and the Gemara says the walls of the house never saw her hair. And she was Zocha to 7 sons who were, I think, Kohanim Gedolim. So the question is, so why didn't other women do this? And just cover up your hair? And then the answer is no, it's not the mere fact of covering up your hair, it's feeling Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid. It's feeling that you're always constantly in God's presence. So that's the yisod by any mitzvahs, but that's the yisod here. But he was bemoaning, he didn't have the feeling of Esav. Of course he could have put on the suit. So we see even Esav was very meticulous in Kibbud Avim, but so was obviously Yaakov and the others as well. And therefore that's what the Torah is coming to underscore. The importance of the mitzvah of Kibbud Avim and how meticulous Yaakov was. So it says, Vayetze Yaakov Bereshis, Vayelech Harana. He left Beersheba and he went to Harana. So why did he leave Beersheba and why did he go to Harana? So there were 2 reasons he left town. Well, it's all the same reasons, but one was Esav was very upset because what happened with the Bechorah, with the brachas, the blessings. So he was afraid that, or his parents were afraid that Esav was going to kill him. So they said, you better leave town. And then the other parent said, I want you to go to Harana, and therefore you will meet your spouses. So we see later on, so that's what happens later on. So they point out that Haran's back, the old town, and the drushes around point out that that's where they had the midah. So therefore the Torah is showing, look how meticulous Yaakov was in Kibbud Avim. So the Torah spells it out. He left Beersheba because his parents said, leave Beersheba because Esau is going to kill you. And they said, go to Harana, and not just leave Beersheba, but go to Harana, go to Haran, and therefore the Torah is spelling it out to show that Yaakov was in fulfillment of the mitzvah of Kibbud Avim.